Good evening again, everybody. This is Lynn Gardner. I want to welcome you to our call tonight, Learning the Secret to Building Wealth. I had a lot of questions about this one. A lot of people wanted to know, what are you going to talk about? You have to tune in to find out whoever can spread a message like this in 30 minutes or less. But I guarantee you, I'm going to break it down in very simple terms and in ways that will probably blow your mind. You see, a lot of people don't understand that anybody that wants to build wealth can build wealth because it's a lot simpler than you think. But I like to kind of set the pace here so people know. Some of you don't know me, and I just want you to know a little bit about my background. I've been in real estate a long time. 18 years of my experience was in the real estate auction side of things. So I auctioned from one end of the country to the other, all states but one. I went to Mexico, into Canada. I even went into China to teach them how to buy at auction. It was an amazing ride. As part of that ride, I saw it all. I sold beautiful properties, just the most amazing multi-million dollar properties to affluent people. I sold average properties to, average people. And I sold new home construction to new home buyers. And I sold bank properties, get stuff off the portfolio. I've seen it all. But the one common denominator that I would see auction after auction, year after year, was that people would say, man, I wish I could buy that. Man, I wish I could do that. You see, a lot of people have these dreams and ideas that it would be so nice if they could be in a position to buy a house, maybe flip it, or to buy a house and to investment property, and they just don't know how to get from point A to point B. And so that's what I'm going to break down for you tonight. So why wealth building? Well, let me tell you something. A lot of people push back on that. I don't know why. I'm a woman of faith, and I can tell you a lot of people in my world say, what are you talking about money? As if there's something wrong with wealth, But the simple answer to why wealth building is because, again, most people have the desire. Well, that's a relative thing, by the way, but most people have that desire. They just don't understand how to get there because life is about a whole lot more than being like a hamster on a wheel. Go to work, get a check, pay the bills, and just going over and over and over. There's more to it than that. And there's a way for you to financially exceed that, but you got to understand how it goes. So, because each of us has that ability, again, if you want to build wealth, you have the ability to build wealth. You just got to be willing to take the steps it takes to get there, right? So, regardless of how much money you have or you don't have, you can get there. And as for me, I know that the more we build as a woman of faith, the more wealth, if you will, that we are able to accumulate, and the more we can give away. And I believe that's what I'm called to do, and that Christians are called to do. But it's a given. The Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So the Bible's saying if you're good, if you're solid, you're going to leave something, not just for your children, but for your we need to, get serious about being able to pass that along generation. Listen, God has the ability. He could rain down gold and silver from heaven. It all belongs to him. He rained down manna from heaven to feed his people, and then quail when they got sick of manna. He can rain down anything. He raised the dead. He parted the sea. But he doesn't rain down gold and silver because, he expects his people to do that part. So he wants his people to fund the kingdom work right here. And so he's the one to bring it forth, right? So building wealth with the right heart, not with the greed heart, not with all that going on, but with the right heart, it is always the good thing to do. Building wealth doesn't necessarily require money, and that's just some misconception that people have. Well, you got to have money to make money. That is so not true. It requires effort. It requires the right mindset, and it definitely requires a strategy. And that's part of what we're going to go over tonight. Well, forgive me for my simple analogies, but I'm going to talk about Monopoly for a minute. Everybody on this call, everybody in the world probably knows about Monopoly. You probably played it as a kid, and maybe you still play it in your family today. My family does. I remember, oh my gosh, when I was a kid, I had a sister 3 years older than myself, and she loved playing Monopoly. Like cutthroat competitive. I mean, a Monopoly game could go on for days. And when I went broke, because I didn't really care, I would go broke. She'd loan me money at 10% interest to keep me going for days. That's what the Monopoly games look like in our house. But I want to use this as a simple analogy. See, there are different kinds of Monopoly players. Some stack their cash in a pile. Right, they want it all stacked up because it looks like they have more money than they actually have. And quite frankly, we do that today in our life. We get a big house, big car, all the flash going on. So it looks like we have it all stacked up, and it looks like we have more than we have. Some bury their cash under the board, right? They hide it. They don't want you to know anything. They don't want you to see what they have. They don't want to talk about what they have. They don't want to, share what they have. It's just kind of stashed under that board. Some flaunt their assets, spending with absolutely no strategy on buy it, buy it, buy it. There's no strategy, and they often go broke in the process. If you can remember some of those competitive games, maybe in your family, it was that person that often went broke because they didn't think about it. Some are just out for the ride. It makes no difference to them what they acquire, if they win or lose. And unfortunately, when it comes to finances and building wealth, that debt to wealth kind of mindset, so many people are just along for the ride, feeling so content. If we just, keep getting a paycheck, biggest thing is keep a paycheck and, go to work, get a check, pay the bills, and lather, rinse, repeat. That's what they're satisfied with, but it doesn't have to be that way. For instance, with strategy, if you play Monopoly, you know that the hot real estate is boardwalk, right? That's what everybody going for, boardwalk. That has the highest rent, the highest return. And so if you can just get your hands on boardwalk, you're going to do pretty well in a Monopoly game. At least that's what we think, right? But boardwalk isn't the most productive or lucrative property to own a Monopoly. It's actually Illinois Avenue. And you might look at the sticker price, look at the rent price, and say, how can that be? Well, it comes down to strategy, because you see, based on the rolls of the die, people will hit on the 14th on boardwalk will be the 14th hit. In other words, if you statistics and strategies, Illinois is going to be the #1 hit. So you're going to have the possibility of creating a lot more wealth and building a lot more rent and fees, if you will, by owning Illinois than what you thought was the better deal. So it always comes down to location. It always comes down to strategy, even something as simple as a Monopoly game that we can carry over into life. But, as we look at debt and wealth and all those things that surround money, things aren't always what they appear to be. So we, especially when it comes to money, people think sometimes in too simplistic terms, just like they do boardwalk. Well, that's obviously the best property, but it's not the best property. So we're going to break some things down today. A lot of people, if you look at TV, the dreams, because you see on HGTV, for instance, all these buy and flip and fixer-uppers and love it or list it and all this stuff. But they are hot shows. It's big business. Why? Because we're living vicariously. Man, I wish I could buy that. Man, I wish I could flip that. Man, I wish I could find a property like that. We are living our dreams out on reality TV with properties about real estate, but we can be a part of it, and more simply than you think. A lot of you might think, well, if only I had a boatload of money. If I had a boatload of money, I could do that too. So you have that excuse that you need a boatload of money to be able to do what they do. Some of you say, if only I had a rich aunt, she'd die and leave me all of her money, then I could go do those things the rich people do. But it doesn't take that. And some of you say, if only I could win the lottery, if I could just get my hands on all that money, I could go out and do all that stuff too. But chances are you might not do it, because the truth is most people who receive that kind of windfall, they never build wealth at all. Why is that? Because most haven't learned the true value of money, because most don't understand how money works yet, and because they don't know how to bank like the bankers do. And that's the #1 key to building wealth, is understanding how the whole thing works, just like you need to understand Monopoly. So building wealth takes strategy. It doesn't take cash. You don't need the boatload, you don't need the inheritance, and you don't need the winning lottery ticket to get there. So I'm going to break down some things that wealthy people do, and I'm going to work my way to the #1 things. And number 7 on the list here is they know they need multiple streams of income. Listen, that's what wealth is all about. It's not like, you go get a boatload of earnings and you quit your job necessarily. You need multiple streams of income. So people striving for wealth are looking for other streams of income in addition to what they're already doing. So wealthy people don't put all their eggs in one basket, and frankly, you shouldn't either. You've seen lives turn upside down. A paycheck goes away, the family gets turned upside down. You should never have all your financial eggs in one basket. So although most wealthy people, hold down, or at least they begin to, in the very beginning, they hold down a regular job, right? They don't bank on the paycheck, and they don't rush from the paycheck to the house flip or whatever. They're building, they're looking, they're working towards something. They're not just, being reckless. So they know they need multiple streams of income, and every single person in America does too. They spend far less than they make. Now that's a painful one, because you see it out there. You might be out there. You might be just spending money. You don't really know what you're spending. You a couple $100s a month going out in Starbucks. You don't really know. They are very aware of what they spend, and they make sure to spend less than they make so they can stash away a little bit of their earnings, right? Wealthy people are willing to live within their means to accomplish their goals. Listen, through that fortunate real estate ride, I have known some billionaires, and I'm not exaggerating, and they are they are definitely, wanting to live within their means, but they're also just very much aware of every dollar they spend, and you should be too. They use credit cards to their advantage, but they never ever finance what they can't afford to buy. They never do it that way. They don't put it on a credit card. They don't float the vacation till next month. They don't spend on Christmas and pay in February. They don't do any of that. They live, within their means by spending less than they make. They're frugal always. Man, I'll tell you, I've said this so many times. I've been in the presence of wealthy billionaires that bent down and picked down a penny off the sidewalk. They value money. Wealthy people value it, and it shows in the way they spend. They understand that the less they spend, the more potential they have, to build more wealth. Every penny counts to them. Every penny doesn't count to most other people. We don't even think about it, but it counts to them. Many wealthy people actually rent their homes. They don't even buy a home. A lot of them hold back buying until they build their wealth, and then they go buy their mega mansion, right? But a lot of them choose not to ever own a home because they'd rather build wealth than buy a really pretty box to live in. So they negotiate everything. Sometimes they rent. They lease their cars. Warren Buffett, he buys an American car and drives it into the ground literally until it won't run anymore. He still lives in the home he and his wife bought, I think, in 1953, 1950s, split level home, still lives there, right? And so they look at money a whole lot differently. The average person looks at money as self-satisfaction. Oh, good, I can get a bigger house. Oh, I can get a nicer car. Oh, I can buy a new dress. We look at the self-satisfaction, but a wealth mentality is always looking into the future. What are my goals and what am I trying to accomplish? And once they do, believe me, they enjoy the wealth. They delay their rewards though. Building true, long-lasting wealth means that you focus more on that building temporarily again than you do on that spending. So the big house and the cars and vacations, they're all delayed until there's plenty of cash to buy. And that's one thing, a sacrifice that stops a lot of people from building wealth. They look at that one piece and say, I don't think so. I want all my toys. I want all my fun. I want all my opulent things right now. I don't want to wait till I can afford to buy things 100 times more expensive. I want them right now. So we miss the opportunity, but they have delayed rewards and an amazing future because of it. And if you could just get through that mindset shift, that would be a huge breakthrough to you toward wealth. They invest in real estate. Many of them started in real estate, still go in real estate. Yes, there are plenty of other things to invest in, but if you look at all the things that wealthy people invest in, the number one thing or the most predominant thing is real estate. The financial advantages of investing in real estate are huge. There's positive cash flow if you do things right, appreciation in terms of housing values. Boy, look at it now, right? Leverage and tax advantages. A lot of reasons to own real estate. It's a good, solid, secure investment for them. They need find a need and they fill it. So if it's a residential need, they buy that. If it's a commercial need, they buy that. They just go back and forth and find a need and fill it. They don't ever look at a property and say, oh, I really like it. I don't know who else would like it. I don't know who else would rent it. That kind of mentality of building this unique stuff kept me in the auction business, because who else is going to buy what they built? So there will always be a rental market, and they know that. Doesn't matter what the economy is doing. We're getting ready to get into a huge rental market, frankly, because so many homes are going to be lost to foreclosure, and a lot of people will be displaced with that whole rental market problem. Doesn't mean they won't make good tenants, but it means that they're probably going to get evicted as part of the process today. So leverage equity to invest in a property that will pay for itself. So that's what they look at. I can get the real estate, I can get a tenant, and the tenant's going to pay for my mortgage. It's going to pay my investment. So one day that'll be free and clear, and I'll enjoy the fruit of my labor. Number two, they use what they already have to leverage into more investment. So see, they didn't have a boatload of cash, most of them. They didn't have a rich relative that died and left them money. They didn't win the lottery. They're using what they already have. So they don't pull equity out of their homes, I can tell you that, for things like pools and vacations and put in a basketball court. They don't do that. If they were to refinance, they might get a better rate and they'd never extend the term. They would still go with the same term. They don't sell in a seller's market and they don't buy in a seller's market. So, they don't want to, excuse me, they don't buy in that. So they don't want to, overpay, if you will. They want a good deal. Again, when our market shifts here, and it's a good reason for us to be having this talk, when it shifts, it's going to become a buyer's market again. They would never buy in this market. They want to buy in a good market. They want to sell in a seller's market if they sell. They understand equity is where the leverage is, and that's what most of you don't understand. Again, you think you need cash. What you really need is equity. Equity is their opportunity to reinvest, not replace. So in other words, they don't suck it someplace else. It's their opportunity, to reinvest it as they build more and more equity. A lot of people, if you ever get out there for business loans or for whatever purpose, will be asked about their net worth. And sometimes people say, oh, our house is, worth 700,000. Well, no, what your net worth is what's left over at the end of the day. So your net worth is what is the value of it? What is the market value minus what you owe? That's your net worth. So, today we have people overpaying for real estate. They're going to have a negative net worth. So the net worth is what's left over. So what we need to accomplish is address the equity. So there's a bigger gap between what the value is and what we owe. So we can use the leftovers to leverage our wealth. Mark Cuban said, pay off your debt first. Freedom from debt is worth more than any amount you can earn. And that's so true. See, again, we can't make the, misconception that we need cash to build wealth. We need to take a serious look at what we already have. You see, it doesn't take genius to figure out that if you make extra payments on something, an extra payment a couple times a year or every month, whatever you're doing, and then you're going to pay the debt down fast. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, but it does take a genius to figure out how to pay less interest, versus using cash to pay down the debt. In other words, it does take genius to bank like the bankers do. So paying down debt painlessly will create that equity. Number one goal in your life, whether you want to build wealth or not, should be to address that debt so you have more equity, because equity creates the wealth. And again, pay off your debt first, and then freedom from debt is worth more than any amount you can earn on any investment whatsoever. And that's just the opposite of what we taught our society for so long. So let's look at an example. Let's say you have a mortgage on your primary residence and you'd like to buy a rental property, investment property, but you don't have any cash, right? You're just sitting there, going to work, get a check, pay the bills, but you want to get going and you're investing, right? So that's where the power of your equity comes in. And that's why that has to be addressed first. You see, if you've been diligent about paying down your debt, there should be plenty of equity to leverage no matter what the real estate market looks like. Even if your property fell in value, if you've been serious about the equity, there's money to work with. So you could, just as one example, you could get a line of credit against your current property, pull that cash out and use it as a down payment on your investment property. So you see, you're not going outside and looking for a big pile of money. You're using what you already have. It's your equity. Put it to good use. So we need the equity. When you do that, again, you get a rental property. The tenant's actually covering the cost of your loan, right? And you, again, get back busy, getting that debt, paid for again, get the equity built up again because you took some of it out to buy the rental property. And then you continue to reduce your debt. And then you lather, rinse, and repeat. And that's, the possibilities are absolutely endless. That's just one idea of how you build wealth without a nest egg. You do it by using what you already have. But in order to do that, you got to get serious about what you already have. So if you play the Monopoly game right, if you bank like the bankers do, if you strategically focus and you're not emotionally driven, oh, honey, we got to have this bigger house. Oh, good, here's a good market to sell our house. Let's go get a bigger house. When you get out of the emotional side of it, if you remain focused on not paying interest as much, and listen, even your 2.5%, 3.5%, 4.5% mortgage interest is huge when it's broken down and you see how much you're overpaying. So if you focus on not paying interest and paying down debt as fast as you can without those extra payments, then you can leverage your equity too. In fact, you could potentially buy and completely pay for multiple properties in the same time you'll otherwise pay for just one mortgage. Most people, they move every 7 years. We know statistically that's where it is, right? But most people will live their entire lifetime, even though they move from house to house, and always have a mortgage. They've been sold on the fact that it's good. So, it's not good. So we need to get serious about getting equity. So leverage your equity, you invest, you pay down what you borrowed to invest, and you lather, rinse, repeat. That's how you build portfolios, folks. And if you decide to do the buy and flip, then of course you could do the same thing. You could, take the equity that you've worked so hard to gain in your home, and you could put that toward the buy and flip and, renovations and all that, flip it and replace the equity. So there are a million things you can do. And if you take the right strategy, if you focus on the right things, you can build wealth. Everybody can build wealth, but it's going to take those steps I just showed you. But you know what? It is so simple if you can just learn to bank like the bankers do. Einstein said, that compound interest was the eighth wonder of the world. Those who understand it earn it. Those who don't pay it. Most of us don't understand it, so we're paying it. So much money in interest that could be used to help you build your wealth. And that's what it's all about. So let's recap for just a second. Number one on our list was we need multiple streams of income, a second job, a side gig, a rental property, whatever that is. We need another stream of income. Building wealth should be your first goal to getting that second stream of income. You spend less than you make, so stop spending money you don't have. Come on, guys. Again, funding Christmas and paying for it next year, and going on vacations and not worried about it. Just pull out the plastic. Stop spending money that you don't have, and start living within your means. And wasn't that many years ago that's where they lived. We didn't always have credit cards to borrow money to do everything we want to do. And so stop it. Be frugal. Think about it. Think twice about it. Shop for cars and do your homework and don't have to buy new, and be frugal like the wealthy people. That's not being like the Scrooge. That's like being, this is wealth mentality. They look at every penny they spend and they're wise about it. So we've got to quit being reckless. Be willing to wait for the rewards of your efforts. Listen, again, you could go out. A lot of people are, oh, honey, the interest rates are so low. We can get twice the house for the same mortgage payment. Stop it. You can get those times. You can buy your mansion. You can buy your Maserati after you put in the work. But, so you need to be willing to wait for the rewards of your efforts, and then maybe invest in real estate. There could be something else you're looking at. I'm a real estate person, so I think it's in real estate, and use what you already have to build more. You don't need that boatload of cash. You need to use wisely what you already have. But the number one thing, and of all the tips that would come from the wealthy people, the number one way that you will have to create wealth is to build the equity in what you already have. Pay it down, pay it off if you can, get some room there so you can actually leverage what you already have to build what you've already dreamed about. But you got to take action. Nothing's going to, there's no such thing as easy money. I mean, once in a while you get fortunate, but you have to work for it, right? So you can accomplish all the wealth building steps I just shared with you on your own. All those are doable things. So be mindful, be frugal, be willing to wait on your rewards. Those things you can do on your own. You'll need a savvy realtor if you don't have one. That's really, somebody looking for deals. There are realtors out there that just sell nice properties, and some that know how to get in the trenches and find a deal. So you'll definitely need a savvy realtor if you're going to invest in real estate, and you'll most likely need a professional to show you how to bank like the bankers do. Not everybody does. Most CPAs don't. Plenty of financial brilliant minds don't. There are techniques and ways to be able to work against the interest you're being charged. But the best part is, whether you need a savvy realtor or a financial professional to help you work on that equity, neither one are going to cost you a dime unless you decide to move forward. So those two things you should secure right away. If I were you, I'd look at trying to build the equity, and I would do it right now. There are ways to do it, painless ways to do it, ways that you can get your equity, fabulous ways that you could be completely out of debt. It's just a short period of time. So you need to look into that. So you see, you don't need a boatload of money. You don't need an inheritance from an aunt you never heard of. And you certainly don't need a winning lottery ticket to build wealth. All you need is effort. You need that effort, and you definitely need a strategic plan. And I've just laid one out for you in less than 30 minutes. So listen, it's time to stop living paycheck to paycheck. If you always wanted to be a part, if you're like, so I went to 5,000 closings. If you're like those 5,000 plus people that said, man, I wish I could buy that. Man, I wish I could do that. You need to stop talking about it and get it done, because it's doable. You can build wealth. Anybody can build wealth. with the steps I just shared with you. So stop being, satisfied living paycheck to paycheck. It's time to stop embracing debt as if it's the norm and as if, all you have to do is pay off a 30-year mortgage and a couple of cars over a lifetime. It's bigger than that, and it's possible. It's time to stop justifying your lifestyle, one that in all probability you can't afford. And what I mean by that, if one paycheck disappeared from your household, you'd be scrambling. So stop trying to justify that and stop accepting status quo as if that's all there is. Because believe me, folks, there's a whole lot more to life. It's time to stop leaving the next generation with debt versus the inheritance. The inheritance we're told to give. Who wants to leave their heirs with a whole bunch of debt, mortgage debt and car loans and credit cards and whatever else? Won't it be wonderful if you get serious and you can build the wealth that you've always talked about dreaming and thought you needed a boatload of cash to pull off? It's time to start building your wealth. And it really is as simple as I've just shared with you. So on that note, I would like to see if there's anybody with any questions. I go about it pretty quickly, and I think we got it done in 30 minutes or less. So I'd like to open it up if you have any questions or comments about building wealth. Guys, it's not complicated. Your brain's been told you need a whole bunch of money to make money, and that is not the truth. And so what you need is a strategic plan and a willingness to do the things that I just outlined. So anybody, if you'd like to, you can unmute. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you all good night. Anybody? Okay, looks like that's it. So thank you for tuning in, guys. It's been my pleasure to share with you these wealth building tips. This has been recorded. So if you have anybody in your life that, talks about, I wish I could do that. People addicted to HGTV because they would love to buy and flip. They would love to, to do these whole list of and flip properties. If you got anybody in your life like that, anybody that has dreams, they talk about a lot, but they're not getting there, you can feel free to share this recording with them. I'm sure we'll do it at one point in the future. So God bless you all. Thanks for being in, and I will see you next time. Take care.